Hey everybody, this is a special episode here where I wanted to talk a little bit about recovery gear. Now we take our van to some pretty wild and remote places. A big part of this and having this confidence is knowing that we have some of the basic tools to feel like we could help ourselves or help another person. Now I want to preface this a little bit. We are in a 4x4 Sprinter van, but we are far from rock crawling. We are far from looking for the most difficult way to go. And we are more about being in these wild and remote places and exploring and seeing new things rather than just trying to find the most difficult situation to take our vehicle through. Our van is our house. So if it gets broken, we are homeless. We are living in a motel or who knows what, and that gets very expensive and complicated. And the last thing we want to do is break our van in the middle of nowhere and have to deal with that. But with that said, we also want to be responsible for ourselves and be able to get ourselves out of a situation and also feel like we can go into some of these wild places and feel like we've got ourselves under control.
We just barely made it into California. We are pulling into camp for the night, I guess, on BLM, and we are stuck in the sand.
We are in the air on this side. The others are dug in so much.
This never happens on like sunny, nice days. Oh, it is. Let me just stand in front of it.
He's good.
Now I want to take some time in this video and just show you what we carry as far as our recovery kit. Now recovery just means what do you do if your van gets stuck and you need to recover it from a sticky spot? That could be mud, that could be sand, that could be rocks, that could be a host of things, right? And like I said before, we're not searching out the most difficult places trying to get our van stuck. This is more of a plan B, really even a plan C, that we have to use any of this. Okay, now we have gotten our van stuck before. We have gotten it stuck where we're totally alone. We're a single vehicle, which is kind of the worst case scenario, right? Is it's always better when you have a second vehicle to help, either with winching or towing or pulling or just more people to help you go out and get supplies that you might need and come back and be able to take care of it at a later time. But I feel pretty confident in the type of places that we want to access that I have what we need to cover of the situations that I would foresee us ever getting into. Okay, so what's important to think about when you're driving in these out of the way places? The first thing I think is use your brain. If your goal is not to get stuck, like a lot of the rock crawler guys, their goal is to get stuck and to go to these really crazy places and really push their vehicles. That is not our goal. Our goal is to go explore somewhere, and if we get halfway into a place and we see that this isn't going well for us and that we don't think it's going to get better, we can always put it in reverse, turn around, and get out of there. That's the easiest thing. Then we've preserved our day and we can go on to the next spot that we want to explore, and hopefully we can access that. So I think the first two tools you have in your toolbox is your brains and putting your vehicle in reverse. Okay, now the next thing that we do all the time, and we do this for a ride quality benefit as well as added traction, is airing down our tires. Our tires in our Sprinter van run at 50 PSI in the front, 70 in the back when we're on the road. That's our standard air pressure. But when we go off-road, commonly I'll drop it down to anywhere between 40 and 20 PSI, and that just depends on the terrain we're on. Now, if we're in Baja and somewhere and we're going to drive onto a beach, and it's really soft, loose sand, I might even drop it down more than that. Now, the more you drop your air pressure, the better chance you have of your tire coming off the rim. So anytime you're aired down, you want to drive much slower and much more controlled than you ever would on the road. So I tend to think of, it depends on your air pressure, right? And you'll kind of get a feel for this as you experience this with your own vehicle. Just because they're really soft, and if you really go into a corner hard, the tire could roll over and pop off the rim. And then you've probably mucked up your rim a bit and you're in a little bit more of a pickle than you want to be. So when you're aired down, keep the speeds down And you should be doing that anyway when you're off-road. You know, most Forest Service trails, even though it's not posted usually, they have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. And once again, we're in a 4x4 van, so we're not out there to set any speed records, but we are out there to just slowly make our way to these beautiful places and enjoy it and take it in. Okay, so how do you air down your tires? Well, if you watch some of my past videos, you'll see plenty of instances where we stop and we go through the air down process. And more than showing you guys how to do all this, I want to just kind of talk about what we carry. And there's plenty of videos on YouTube that will take you through how to use all this stuff and show you people getting their vehicles pulled out of some really hairy situations. But let's start with my air down kit. What do I carry to air down? Well, I have an ARB Easy Deflate. This is a little device that's got a gauge in it, a PSI gauge, and then it has this chuck that goes on your tire. Now you screw this brass fitting onto your valve stem. Once it's tight, then there's another secondary fitting with a plunger. You hit the plunger in, you turn it, and you will back out your valve stems. Once they come completely loose, you can pull this all the way out, and then this little acorn type chuck will slide off, and you'll hear the air coming out of there. This will dump the air relatively quickly, and we use this for a number of years before we got the Apex Rapid Deflate valve stems. Now we got these from Agile Offroad, and you literally don't need to use this anymore. You just bring an air gauge and you undo the cap and you flip a lever and the whole thing starts airing down, and it airs down about 4 times faster than this would do. It is very quick. In fact, the first couple times you do it, you want to go kind of slow with it and not let too much air out, because you can be down to nothing before you know it. These valves are really handy and awesome, but I still carry this for, you know, if I need to help somebody else air down. This is a good tool for people who don't have those valve stems installed on their wheels. And it's just a nice thing to have. I've used it also to remove and replace valve cores out of valve stems. So it's a good little tool to have, and I still carry it around for a number of reasons. It goes in this little bag, and it just lives in my door, ready to access anytime I need it. Okay, so that's airing down. Once you get back to the blacktop, you're going to want to air up. Now this attaches to 2 points on my van. I've got one air chuck under the hood, and I've got one in the rear of the van. Now this goes to my ARB onboard air compressor. So I flip a switch on the dash, air compressor comes on. This attaches to the valve stem on your wheel. This will give you a digital readout of how much air is in your tire. And you pull this lever, it puts air in, you let off, gives you an accurate reading, and you just keep doing that until you hit your magic number. It also has a little dump valve here on the side. So say you go a few pounds over, you're talking to your friends and you just put a little more than you want in there, it's easy just to back it off with this. Now, if you're doing a full air down, you probably just want to still use the deflator, because this would take a long time, but it's great for letting off a pound or two. All right, so there it is. This, in conjunction with my onboard air compressor, allows me to refill air for my tires or anyone else that I run across in need. It's been very handy. It is such a great thing to have. We were pulling a trailer. My wife Kathy was driving. We were in the Mojave Desert. We were on a really well-maintained dirt road going back to a campground that's right off of the Mojave Trail. And we're pulling this 20-foot camper trailer, so we have a lot of drag. We come around a corner. The next thing we know, we're in some very soft, deep sand where the road actually goes through a sand pit. Next thing we know, we're slowing down. Kathy didn't know quite what to do. She felt the van getting a little squirrely, so she let off the gas. And all of a sudden, we felt the van sinking in. I told her, go, 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 keep your momentum up. And by the time she gave it more gas, the trailer had hit the soft stuff. And the next thing we know, the rear tires are digging in and we're stuck. Well, so what do we do? Well, the first thing I would do in that situation is airing down. If you air down your tires, it lets your tires kind of squish. It gives you a larger patch of traction from your tires squishing down a bit, and it allows you to spread the load of your vehicle out over a bigger surface area. Therefore, maybe you're going to have more traction, and in the case of sand, hopefully you'll get a little more float and you won't sink down as easily. I would put it in 4-wheel drive, and I would probably try to reverse out of it. If it seemed like it was closer to get to solid ground going backwards, I would try to then reverse out of it. Now, we had this trailer attached, so that made it even a little more complicated. We tried that, and the front wheels dug in, the back wheels dug in. They just couldn't get enough traction to push the trailer out, and we were still stuck. Now, I think if we hadn't had the trailer on, we would have gotten out with that no problem, right? So then the next obvious thing for us to try is to break out our Maxtracks. Now, what are Maxtracks? Maxtracks are these. I'm sure you've seen these around on people's vehicles. These are traction boards or recovery boards. In the case of sand, we will dig away the sand in the front of the van. We'll put these underneath the tires here. These will be at about a 45-degree angle coming out of a hole where they're as much under the tire as we can get them. So they're kind of stuffed in under the tire. And then as you start to go, these teeth on here, they give bite to your tires, and they allow you to then get traction. And at the same time, it'll usually suck these under a little bit. And then before you know it, you're on terra firma Maxtracks, and you're able to then get a little bit of speed and drive out of the hole that you're stuck in. Now, these are incredible and they work very good. And if they're accessible and easy to grab, you can have yourself out of a sticky situation in no time at all, which is great. The Maxtracks come with these little lanyards, and in the case of sand, you'll want to just hitch these through the side of them, because sometimes once you take off, your Maxtracks will actually get buried in the sand. And there has been people who have lost their Maxtracks, which is really no fun because these are kind of expensive. And they spend hours digging around in the sand and they still don't find their Maxtracks. But if you have these little lanyards on, there's a good chance that this material will be floated to the top, and you can at least help you to find your Maxtracks once they've disappeared. Okay, so the Maxtracks work beautifully. They are awesome to get you out, and they have saved our bacon quite a few times, and they're just so easy. They're just so easy. Another little trick you can do with the Maxtracks is they've got these handles here, and you could, if you don't have a shovel, you can dig with these and use it as a makeshift shovel, and they actually work pretty good. And even if you do have a shovel and you've got some other people with you, give them a Maxtracks, let them dig using a Maxtracks. That can really help. So in that case, the Maxtracks got us out quickly and saved the day. Let's say we're stuck in some mud or maybe in just some really loose ground, and maybe for whatever reason we don't have our Maxtracks. One thing that's really critical that I think everybody should have for a variety of reasons other than recovery is just general campsite stuff, is having a shovel. Now this is a DeMoss shovel. This is a folding shovel, and it actually has this beautiful telescoping handle that this thing folds into a full-length shovel, which is really nice on your back if you got to do a lot of digging. It's made out of aluminum. It's very strong and sturdy, but it's still very lightweight. And it goes on its own little mount that mounts on the back door of my van. It has a lock on it, and this is a great shovel to have. So if you're stuck in some really nasty stuff, a lot of times just digging down a little bit, maybe getting some wood or some rocks under the tires or in front of the tires can allow you to just kind of drive out of it, similar to like the Maxtracks do. But just this last year, I was in a friend's van, and we got stuck in a little soft place in the mud. It bogged down on the back wheels. It was two-wheel drive, and we didn't have a lot of options because I was in his van and he didn't even have a recovery kit of any sort. So what did we do? Well, we had a jack, and I always carry at least one jack. I have this jack from Agile Offroad. This is an H1 Hummer jack. This is what they use on the H1 Hummer military vehicles. So this is a really bomber jack, and Agile Offroad welds on this big extended base plate. This gives it more surface area if you're in the sand or in something soft, which a lot of times you are when you're jacking things up, especially for recovery purposes. It keeps it from sinking in as much, and it just gives you a more sturdy, safer base to work off of. Agile also makes this cool little milled aluminum. One side has a radius that'll fit on the axle and make a nice secure fitting. The other side, you flip it around flat, and it's got a nice flat lifting surface to get on the front of the van or in other places. So this is really handy. This jack does go very tall, and it'll work on a Sprinter van that has a rip kit and larger tires, whereas the factory bottle jack won't quite go high enough. So you end up having to put boards or something under there to jack that up even a little higher, and that gets a little unstable. Now I still carry the secondary jack because you never know. There might be times when you need a second jack and that could be really handy. Plus it's got this perfect place in the van, so I might as well bring it. But I find almost 100% of the time I'm going for this jack and it serves me well. So say you're stuck somewhere, you can then get under there, jack the van up enough to get the tires out of the hole or rut or whatever you're in. Then you can find rocks or sticks or logs, whatever it might be, stuff them in the hole, then jack the van down back onto that stuff, and then hopefully you can drive out. This can make a big difference. And this is another reason to use a shovel, is maybe there's a trench or something there, and you can then jack it up, fill it in with gravel or dirt or whatever, and that'll help be a fill that will allow you to not be stuck anymore. Now also with the shovel, I've used the shovel to fill in places on a trail, basically do trail maintenance to make the trail better, more passable before I even get there. So if I see a place is a little dicey, there's a rut or something like that, a lot of times there's graded dirt that's just on the side of the road. And you could just dig a lot of that, fill in a rut, fill in a trench, and just drive right over it. And so sometimes it's better to do a little work in the beginning rather than have to do a lot of work after you get stuck. Okay, so let's say we're really stuck and we need some help. We need to be pulled out, and maybe it's a combination of these things. Maybe you're using Maxtracks, maybe you're gonna have someone help you be pulled, maybe you've got to jack it up beforehand and fill some ruts in, and you've got your shovel. You're using all this arsenal. But there's a couple things that come into play here. So our van has full strength recovery points on the front bumper. Now this is great because the Sprinter van has a little thing that screws into the frame that's really more for getting your vehicle on a tow truck than pulling it out of, say, mud or sand. And so you really want something very sturdy that's ideally attached to the frame. That's what we call a full strength recovery point. And I've got 2 of those on the front of my van. It's a part of my winch tray that is then mounted to the frame, and it also holds the winch. So on that front, I will use these shackles. Shackles come in a lot of different sizes and shapes. They all have a basic concept though, that this goes through the eye and then the pin goes in, you tighten it up, not all the way, because if you really crank this thing down, you're gonna have a hard time getting it off. Typical wisdom is you go tight and then you back it off a quarter of a turn. And then you can pull whatever this is rated to. And you always want to use all this recovery gear that you're pulling or winching with. You want to make sure that it has a stated load on there and you don't exceed that. Okay, and there's like a maximum load and a working load, and we want to stay within the working load. This is a big, really nice Warn shackle. I really like the Warn products a lot. You see everybody driving around town with shackles hanging off of their vans and Jeeps and trucks. And it's so funny because the last thing I want to put is my expensive shackle up there just getting destroyed with road grime and grit and just getting dirty, and probably it's going to even chip away at the finish and it's going to start rusting. So I keep these tucked away. I don't have these as like jewelry for my vehicle. But like this particular one, I found this on the trail, and I find shackles all the time. People are driving these attached to their vehicles and they're on washboardy roads, and this thing's shaking, and eventually this pin will work its way out and the whole thing comes loose and they've just driven away and left their shackle. So a lot of times I'll pick these up, throw them into my kit, give them to somebody. And if you find one part, usually if you look around or dig in the dirt a little where you found it, you'll find both parts of these. They always fall off together. So maybe don't drive around town with your shackles. Keep them tucked away, keep them safe. This is a piece of safety gear that you really want to make sure it's in its top working order and it's not covered in corrosion and beat up before you even need it. Another thing that is really great is soft shackles. Now this is like a funny piece of rope that's woven. It's flexible in here, and basically you have this loop and you put it through this eye and then you cinch it up around it, and then you can pull the same strength as this. Now this is far lighter than this. I mean, this feels like a brick. This feels like a box of Kleenex or something. It is very light, but incredibly strong. I'll leave this to a video for you guys to go watch in the do's and don'ts of these. Just know that I carry a couple, right now I'm carrying 3 real shackles, and there's times like on my front bumper where I want to attach to the recovery points and I need a real shackle. but there's other times when a soft shackle is ideal. So this is the Maxtracks hitch recovery point. This goes through my 2-inch receiver hitch on the back of my van, and then I'd put a toe pin through there just like I would a trailer hitch. And it's rounded and very curved, so it's not going to cut a soft shackle. And then you can take a soft shackle and pass it right through here, and then attach this to anything you need to. Now this could be someone's winch. This could be another vehicle that's pulling you out. This could be a lot of things, and you can even use this to help other people. So if I'm getting recovered from the front, meaning I'm getting pulled forwards, I'm going to use these on my full strength hitch. If I'm going to be pulled out from the back, then I can put this in and be pulled out from the back. Super awesome. We've also got, I've carried around really 4 soft shackles total. So I've got them for a variety of things. These are also really nice in a place where if God forbid, like something was going to break, like under load, like you're being towed or say you're winching out of something, the whole thing can go shooting like a slingshot. And the last thing you want is to be hit with something coming at you at thousands of miles an hour. So by using these soft shackles, if they pop, they're so light. So soft shackles, I try to always use soft shackles where I can. If there's any abrasion or rope running through it or anything like that that could cut it, that's where you don't want to use it and you want to use a hard point. These soft shackles are great just for connecting to things that aren't going to have friction. Now the one exception to that, and I want to get into this next, is we're going to talk about winching and pulleys. This is designed, this is the Maxtracks winch ring. This is designed to give you a pulley that allows you to have mechanical advantage into your system if you're going to be winching out of something. This is designed for a synthetic winch line to go through, and it's designed to be slick and smooth where it can roll and spin on a soft shackle. So this would be one exception to the rule where you don't want to have something rubbing friction on here, but these are designed to do that. They have a nice big radius, they're really slick and smooth, and they aren't going to cut through your soft shackle. The old way of doing this is to use a pulley block or a snatch block, which this is just a giant heavy-duty pulley. And I can use this with synthetic cable too, and this is very strong, but it's also very heavy. I could probably carry 4 of these with the soft shackle to be probably still lighter than this. And I'm kind of in the process of switching over to 1 more of these. I'm going to carry 2 of these and probably leave this at home just because of the weight. And the way I'm kind of working right now, in that I'm not doing a lot of recovery, hopefully, then, you know, I don't know that I really need this in my kit at this point. But these are great tools to have. Now, another thing you should have in your recovery kit is a good pair of gloves. You know, just a lot of times you're working in dirty situations, and it's nice to be able to get the gloves dirty and not get your hands dirty. All right, so let's move forward. So let's talk about the winch a little bit. I have a 1,200-pound Warn Xeon winch on the front of my van. It's really nice to have. Now I find that I use all this other stuff a lot more than my winch, but the winch is a critical thing because if you need a winch, that's about the only thing that's going to help you at that point. So you'll need something to anchor your winch line to, and it's really nice that this can double as a tow strap. Now I also carry an extra 80 feet of synthetic winch line rope, and the idea with this is I keep it in this bag. It's never been opened. I've never needed it. It's zip tied shut. I keep it in this bag just to keep it clean. And I've never needed this yet, but there could be times when you're by yourself and your winch line isn't long enough to reach an anchor. You've got your strap and it still isn't long enough, and having something that I can then use with a couple of soft shackles to connect it and extend it could mean the difference of me getting out or not. Now, if you're getting into really hairy situations, you probably want to carry a shorter tree strap to go around, just use specifically just for trees, or as an extension or whatever you might need. It's kind of nice. Hopefully, if somebody gets stuck, we're with some friends, and our friends have their own little kit of recovery gear. And that's when it can become really handy, is that you can combine things, and then you have everything you could possibly need to take care of a situation. Well, I hope this video has been helpful for you guys. I hope it's gonna give you an idea of what a decent recovery kit for a van could be. There's a lot of ways to do all this. I'm trying to put together a kit that's functional, but that will also be a good compromise in weight and space. I think the kit that I have right now pretty much satisfies most of what I need to do, and hopefully I can get myself out of a pickle or help someone else in need. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Please hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already. That means a lot. I also want to give a huge thanks to our Patreon community. These guys listed right here. Thank you so much for your support. All right, there's nothing left to do but put all this stuff back in my van where it lives and get out there and explore. I hope I see you somewhere over the horizon. Take care, guys.